Welcome to WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. Given that I can't actually hear any of the audio, we might have to start this thing again. Let's find out. By the way, hi, good to see you. Mars Falcon, Wicked Foxy Dragon, the whole gang, delighted to see you. I'm going to pause the stream for a second, see if we got to restart. Oh, thank God. Well, there we go. Fantastic. Jess Rush, Mars Falcon, Wicked Foxy Dragon, everybody who's joining us today. I see you in the chat. They're good to see you. We got a relatively abridged show for you today, but really just one thing I want to talk about from various angles. Okay. And that is truth. Just dealing with reality. We're well past time to insist that everybody who wants to have an effect on politics operate based on the facts, not based on their personal reality. We're going to have to ask people to answer questions they've been avoiding. Let's start with this. In my opinion, this is the most valuable question, which is, what do you think blank is? So when you, from now on, let's just jump into it. When you see somebody saying blank is a socialist, then you say, what do you think a socialist is? X is a Marxist. What is Marxism, then, is the question. Y is a communist. What is communism? If people are going to use these terms, this faked political knowledge, if they're going to use these terms, you have to insist that they understand what they are accusing people of. And we have to do the opposite as well. We have to ask why people are lying. And we have to force the conversation. We have to force the conversation to be about that question when it comes up, and the followers of liars try to avoid it. We can't let that happen anymore. Start recording. We'll talk about it. So the question of the day is, how are we going to get people to talk about reality? Why don't we start off with a piece by David Feldman? There's a show online called The David Feldman Show. It's fantastic. And he looks at the reality of what Kevin McCarthy was fighting so hard for in the debt ceiling. I got some questions for fans of McCarthy, and I'm going to tell them to you in the hopes that you'll find some fans of McCarthy and demand that they answer this.
Need children to get off the couch and go get a job. And that's what's happening all over America in red states.
Demanding children get off the couch and get a job. Well, what on earth is he talking about? Here it is.
Chip Roy, Republican from Texas, who called the bill a turd sandwich over the weekend. By the way, he calls everything a turd sandwich. I found out that he had a threesome with Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert, and he called that a turd sandwich. Well, actually, that is a turd sandwich. But he was a little more eloquent on Tuesday. Here he is pretty much threatening Kevin McCarthy's speakership.
That is why this group will oppose it. We will continue to fight it today, tomorrow, and no matter what happens, There's going to be a reckoning about what just occurred unless we stop this bill by tomorrow.
A reckoning. Very menacing. But you know what? Kevin McCarthy is a survivor. And, you know, he's had to deal with the Freedom Caucus, these far-right Republicans before. He knows what they're like. He knows they want to inflict pain on ordinary Americans. Kevin McCarthy understands that people like Lauren Boebert and Chip Roy, this isn't about balancing the budget. It's satisfying the bloodlust of their constituents. And I think Kevin McCarthy is a lot smarter than he lets on. I think he slipped an Easter egg into this debt ceiling bill.
Okay, so I just want to head this off by saying I am not sure that I agree necessarily with what Feldman said here, upcoming. Although I'll tell you, it makes a lot of sense. But let's just go back a little bit. If a Republican were to ask me for my honest opinion of what the other side thinks, I would tell them exactly what David Feldman just said, that Kevin McCarthy, in order to please his MAGA base, is going to try to slip in cruelty. I think they are searching for cruelty. Honestly, that is what I think. I do believe they want, as a priority of theirs, they want to harm Americans. That's simple. I might be wrong, but I invite anybody who supports those clowns to tell me what it is you do support. What have they offered that you actually think is going to help people? What is their method for helping that you stand behind? Because I'm left to speculate like David Feldman is right here, based off the kind of stuff McCarthy says. Here we go.
Here he is on Tuesday talking to reporters. Pay attention. Pay close attention to what he says. Here he is telling reporters why this debt ceiling bill is a good deal for Republicans because of what he has slipped into it.
For things we bought that we can return, like COVID money to China and others, we're bringing that back. We might have a child that has no job, no dependents, but sitting on a couch. We're going to encourage that person to get a job and have to go to work, which gives them worth and value.
Okay, I'm going to play the key sentence here.
We might have a child that has no job, no dependents, but sitting on a couch. We're going to encourage that person to get a job.
Now, I know you think, many of my listeners right now think it's not an Easter egg. You say, oh, that's a Freudian slip. But here is Kevin McCarthy on Fox News Tuesday night saying the same exact thing.
But we also did something different. In this family, we may have a child that able-bodied, not married, no kids, but he's sitting on the couch collecting welfare. We're going to put work requirements on that individual, so he's going to have work requirements. He's going to get a job, and it's going to make the life easier.
Now, that is not artificial intelligence, I promise you. That is Kevin McCarthy repeating what he said during his press conference. Some of you think it's a Freudian slip. Listen to it again.
In this family, we may have a child that able-bodied, not married, no kids, but he's sitting on the couch collecting welfare. We're going to put work requirements on that individual.
Able-bodied children who are not married, sitting on the couch, collecting welfare, not working. He said that. And that's how I think he's going to keep his speakership. That's how I think he gets the Freedom Caucus on board and stays in power, by putting children to work. I think he slipped it in to this budget ceiling bill.
Okay. So I think this is a perfect piece to talk about if we are trying to avoid some sort of a physical conflict in this country. Let me first and foremost be perfectly clear. When it comes to trans people having a right to exist, gay people having a right to exist, happy Pride Month, by the way. When it comes down to those things, the left isn't going to, there's no scenario where the left loses. We're going to fight to the bitter end for this. What we are doing right now, in the year 2023 into the year 2024, what we are doing right now is our damnedest to talk it out. I'm glad this is not a direct culture issue, because the logic used here is the very same that ends up getting used when talking about that other stuff. We also have what I believe was an incorrect prediction by David Feldman. So the things I want to talk about are why David Feldman made that incorrect prediction. And maybe a commentator will find out, oh no, it's I've read the bill closer and it turns out Feldman was right. Okay, maybe. Let's assume he's wrong so that we can talk with the right on fair grounds. You know, give him some. Let's assume he's wrong. I would like the folks on the right to understand how he was wrong, and I would like you to make note of this if you're watching this show so that you can talk to these people. Why was he wrong? Because Kevin McCarthy kept saying children. Kevin McCarthy kept saying, you've got a child at home, not married, this child. Weird thing to say. Children shouldn't get married. Of course, we know Republicans constantly push for child marriage. It's effed up. This party that says they're afraid of diddlers literally wants there to be a religious ceremony where a bunch of adults give children their blessing to go have sexual intercourse. Because of the language McCarthy uses, because he uses slimy language to talk about what could be a very slimy thing. And then let me go back even. It is definitely a slimy thing. It's just, how slimy was it? Was he talking about kicking, I don't know, children out of the house during school hours and making them go to a job? Or was he talking about kicking children out of the house after school hours and making them go to a job? Or was he talking about just kicking regular folks out of the house and forcing them to go to a job? That's also slimy. Why is that slimy? Because they were there for a reason. If they could, it's not fun to be poor in this country. It's not fun to be unemployed in this country, even if the government is helping you survive. So the question becomes, how slimy was it? And it's really just a matter of predicting how evil it was. Not whether or not it was evil at all, but how evil. Now, GOP folks, listen to Kevin McCarthy one more time. Let's assume again that Feldman was wrong. Listen to how he talks about it. Even if it's an adult, listen to what he says.
In this family, we may have a child that able-bodied, not married, no kids, but he's sitting on the couch collecting welfare. We're going to put work requirements on that individual, so he's going to have work requirements. He's going to get a job, and it's going to make the life easier. But he's sitting on the couch collecting welfare. We're going to put work requirements.
Why is he sitting on the couch collecting welfare, this hypothetical person? Why is that? You think it's because he's lazy? Okay, let's assume it's because this is a lazy person. Next.
Requirements on that individual, so he's going to have work requirements. He's going to get a job, and it's going to make the life easier.
Why does having a requirement to work mean he will receive a job? It doesn't. They call this an incentive, Republicans. They say we're going to incentivize this person. That means hurt. That means torture. That means make to suffer. That's what it means. My question for Republicans is, do you acknowledge that Kevin McCarthy is trying to make it sound as though the government will provide him with a job, a very different thing than what is the reality? Because that's what it sounds like to me.
That individual, so he's going to have work requirement, he's going to get a job, and he's going to make...
He's going to get a job. I just did a thing that makes sure this guy gets a job. My question for you, Republicans: why does Kevin McCarthy have to lie? Did you have any questions about what David Feldman thought this might be talking about? No. He might have been right, he might have been wrong, but he was forthright. He was direct. Most of our politicians are the same way. I don't even agree with the vast majority of what Joe Biden does. I didn't even like the fact that he was bothering to talk to Republicans at all over the debt ceiling. I'm honestly of the belief that they should just be ignored. They're non-functioning, or malfunctioning, I guess I should say, cogs in the machine. They're not honest actors, and I think that dealing with them as though they are is an insult to the rest of us. But I can't deny he was as straightforward as possible about it. Why does Kevin McCarthy need to lie to you? Why does he need to pretend as though he has done a kindness for these people who we acknowledge are already suffering? Why has he got to pretend like he's doing somebody a favor? The answer is obvious. Because it's horrific what he's doing. So, ask your MAGA community. Look, anytime Kevin McCarthy talks about what he wants to do, he talks just like that. Ask your MAGA community, why does he need to say it like that? First of all, what was he literally saying? Second of all, what was he implying? Because you'll find what he's literally saying, if you break it down to just what you would be picked on for if you were in a court of law and they were picking apart the statement. Yeah, for some reason he calls what I assume is an adult a child in a family. That's just weird. But why does he pretend like he is doing that person a favor, regardless of what their age is? The same problem. Why does he pretend like he's doing them a favor? A work requirement is not the same thing as providing somebody a job. It's not even close to the same thing. It is saying this person who has already demonstrated for one reason or another, maybe because they are lazy and they do a bad job whenever they're hired somewhere. Maybe because they're incompetent. They don't have to be saints to have a right to a meal, a blanket, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, those things. That's what we say everybody is allowed to have, not just the saints. Kevin McCarthy is denying him a chance. That hypothetical person he kept bringing up, he's denying them a chance to live because they can't feed themselves, to their liberty because we've made it illegal to be homeless in this country. And I don't know how you pursue happiness from prison. So why is he making it seem like he's done them a favor? A question that we need to keep asking. And the answer we already know. And the reason the MAGA voters avoid questions like that is because it's going to make them have to deal with reality. But it's time. It's simply time. Let's see what the wicked community has to say. Ooh. Domenico, I am with you. Well, all right. You are one of the mans, Jake. You are the man. Ah! Thank you, Domenico. I appreciate it. The anti-corporatist says some of them actually think that way. Ooh. Yeah. I think that's true. And I think it becomes incumbent upon us to separate those people from the rest. And to make it clear, if you are a casual Republican voter, of which there are many, to make it clear who you are standing shoulder to shoulder with. Because on one side, it's Nazis, on the other, it's Confederates. You're surrounded by scum and villainy if you're a casual Republican voter, and you got to know that. Teaching people the language of politics is going to be more important than teaching them the individual lies, because they keep getting lied to. They're not learning their lesson that they simply can never trust anything Kevin McCarthy says ever again. We need to teach them the language of politics so that they can understand deception when they hear it. Wicked Foxy Dragon says it would be one thing if welfare would provide training, yes, for people with no marketable skills. Exactly. And interview clothing to help them get a job, not require them to get a job. Exactly. Look, what Kevin McCarthy says he did, I would be behind 100%. Yes. 100%. But the problem is he doesn't do what he says he does. He just does cruelty. Jess Rush, there are so many homeless here in Tennessee. It's so sad. Oy. Yeah. Domenico, haha, Jake, it's Dom like Tom. Oh, Domenico, I see. It's Dom like Tom in Nico. Oh, Domenico. There we go. Look at that. You are very good, by the way, at using phonetic spelling. I'm not even sure what the word is, but the way they write teleprompter stuff. You should consider getting a job in production for sure. Aside from that, first of all, you remind me of you, and then you are like a new Bernie Sanders, if you do not mind. I don't mind, but I don't think that's accurate, because Bernie is a lot smarter than me. Mars Falcon, konnichiwa dawned on me. Oh, look at that, being worldly. I love it. Franny P, so good to see you. We're going to do, by the way, Franny P, an all Franny P show sometime this week. You've sent me a bunch of suggestions that I really want to play. We're doing a Franny P show this week. There is all kinds of training available, but the funding keeps getting cut. See, this is why we're doing a Franny P show, because you got really, really good insights. Yes, that is true. And I think we are going to be, talking about how we could actually accomplish what Republican politicians say they want to accomplish. Because what they say they want to accomplish, I'm all for. So let's show their voters what a real plan to do those things would be. I'm talking about national security. I'm talking about competitive edges for a competitive edge for small business. I'm talking about vague stains on shirts that don't go away. There we go. All right. So we got to talk about the Trump docs case. We just got to. And also, CNN attempting to, it looks like, recover a little bit of its destroyed reputation. Let's have a look. Oh, the documents case. Folks, we said it a couple of days back. The easiest case to prove hands down is the documents case, and when we said that was before we found out this guy was caught on tape, just admitting to it. This is now not only easy to prove, this is now what do you call a point in time where everything turns? It either goes one way or another. It's a fork in the road, let's say that. Are we going to have rule of law or not? If the recording exists, Jack Smith has no choice but to press charges. Let us talk about this case in terms of what the defense for it could be. How could you possibly defend this behavior? After all the shakeups on Trump's legal team, God bless them, they're still trying. If they would have, If they would have simply said, they being Trump here, have simply said, okay, yeah, I did it. I didn't know it was illegal. Here they are. We would have no issue at all. But he didn't. And he's insisting his lawyers still lie. And his lawyers, if they aren't fired or quitting, have to do that then. So here is lawyers attempting, this is brought to us by the David Pakman Show, because I'd rather not share Fox or even CNN just yet, frankly. Here's his lawyers attempting to make it seem like any of Trump's behavior that we know about publicly, much less that investigators know about and haven't said yet, any of Trump's behavior can be justified. I'll give you a hint. They don't do so good.
Right, so let's go to some CNN video. CNN interviewed Trump lawyer Jim Trusty about the leaked audio recording in which Trump is at Bedminster Golf Club, not at Mar-a-Lago. It's summer of 2021, long after Trump has left the White House and Biden is president. And Trump on the audio recording says, I have a...
Sorry, that's just like a Dr. Seuss name. Or it's a comical name for a lawyer for a famously lying client. Jim Trusty.
Classified document here that I can't show you, proving that Trump did not declassify all of the documents that he took with him, meaning he took classified documents to which he did not have the right.
Love David Pakman. Just to be clear, do we all understand? Do we all know what happened? It's a recording when he was doing an interview for some frivolous nonsense wherein he held up the document, said it was a document, said it was classified, and said it hadn't been declassified. Acknowledging, therefore, if the recording exists, acknowledging all the elements of the crime. He had it. We already knew he was told to give them back. It was in a location where he said there was no documents. And he says in the recording it's classified. The best case scenario is that this guy can go in front of a judge and a prosecutor can say, were you lying then or are you lying now? And hell, it might turn out that there is a combination of facts that means that it wasn't illegal. Somehow it wasn't illegal. Maybe it was literally just a folder with a blank sheet of paper in it. And Trump was just effing with them. But the place to discover that is gonna just have to be in court, where it's illegal to lie. Because it sure looks like a crime. And if we allow it to go uninvestigated, unprosecuted, uncharged, then we are saying there is no standard of evidence that is good enough to charge a former president with a crime. We are saying, then, in essence, that former presidents are above the law, which means Bill Clinton can run around lopping off people's heads. Barack Obama can kick in your door and beat you to death with a statue of Martin Luther King. I'm just playing up what the fears that I believe the right has about these people. All of that is legal if we say that the standard of evidence is higher for bringing a court case than what Trump has demonstrated. Okay, now we know.
Then we go to CNN last night. Here's Caitlin Collins asking Trump's lawyer, if the documents were declassified, as Trump told us they were, why is Trump on the recording saying, I can't show you this because it's classified? Very straightforward and simple question. Jim Trusty, unable to answer.
Ask about something you just said to Abby, which was you referenced the fact that Trump was still president when he left office. He left Washington, I think he had about an hour left in his presidency. Are you saying that it was in that hour that he declassified the documents that were taken with him?
No, your timing is a little bit off. He landed in Mar-a-Lago and was at his residence while still president. It was a little bit after that Biden was sworn in. So he had the absolute authority to take every one of those documents, any document he wants, with him when he left the White House. What happens throughout history, through modern history, is
okay, now he's already being deceptive. In some hypothetical sense, if Trump goes through the declassification process while president, he would then be able to make the case that he can take documents. He didn't do that. Things are not de facto declassified because Trump thought about it or because Trump took them. And Trump admits on the recording that these are still classified documents, meaning he did not declassify them. This guy's lying and he's being deceptive.
But if you take documents and archives thinks they're entitled to it, they start negotiating. And that's what he did. He was telling them things like, hey, just ask if you want anything more. He gave them 15 boxes in January of 2022.
Well, after some back and forth, but just to be clear, you're making the argument right now that by the time he was on the ground in Florida, after he left Washington, that is when he declassified all of these documents that he took with him.
Hey, one thing. Before he answers that question, do you think he's going to give a straight answer? What's Caitlin Collins over here trying to do? She's trying to say, okay, just don't dance around this. Were the documents declassified in Trump's opinion? In Trump's opinion. Not even according to the law, because guess what? The law says, no, the president cannot just mentally assume, assign the declassified status. Tell no one and just mind declassify. Retroactively declassify after he's no longer president. We know the law says that ain't how it works. But Trump has said that is how the law works. He's lying. It's not the case. But she is asking, okay, according to Trump's wacky fantasy about the power he did not have, according to that, were the documents declassified? Let's see if this guy can give a straight answer to that question.
No. I'm saying the documents he brought with him are effectively declassified.
Effectively is doing some heavy lifting in this sentence. And the problem is lawyers not working for Trump say that that's not a thing.
And personalized under the Presidential Record Act. We're talking about constitutional authority under the Constitution to declassify. If he wants to take stuff with him and say, anything I take with me is declassified, if he wants to take stuff and say, anything I read at night is declassified, that...
Just to be clear, and I don't even think Pacman talks about this. Just to be clear, he's not directly even answering that question. He's just rephrasing what the argument was in the first place. Again, a wrong argument. Incorrect. But he's not even addressing that specific document. He's saying he could have done this. I mean, we're splitting hairs so much here. We really are. The question we should be asking everyone, and there's another interview that Pacman has pulled that I'm going to jump to in a moment. The question we should be asking every single person who is talking about this is, what is the standard of evidence necessary to get this in front of a judge? It's got to be lower than what we have seen. It's got to be way lower. Even if you're the sort of person that believes Joe Biden is somehow a criminal mastermind, He's not. But if you are that person and you think he is, then you should be all for Trump being in court right now over this. Because we are setting an astronomically high standard of evidence for bringing one of these people into court. And I'll tell you, if you think it's a witch hunt, if you really think that there is no case here, go into court, have Trump go into court, and demonstrate that. Pull up the section of the law that says he's allowed to declassify mentally. Pull it up where it says that. If you think if it's very Bible-like and it's just a matter of interpretation, make the interpretation in front of a judge. I'm not asking, I'm demanding that Trump be put in a room where it is illegal to lie and there are consequences for breaking the law. That is not an unreasonable request, given the fact that my belief, based on what I have seen, including this extraordinarily gentle interview on CNN, it is my belief that the law has been broken. So we need to litigate that. We need to decide that. Clearly, about 70 million Americans disagree with me. They think either the law hasn't been broken or it doesn't matter. The law is just irrelevant. We got to hash it out in court.
That was absolutely his right as president.
Even if that were the case, he didn't do it and admits the document is classified in the summer of 2021.
And the Presidential Records Act makes it clear that we don't even care about classified information. It is a statutory scheme.
But if this
that
was
deals with
declassified.
Yes.
All right. This other gal on CNN. I'm sorry I don't know her name. Hopefully Pacman introduces her here. This other gal is so damn good. This is the best interview I have seen with a Trump attorney, short of Ari Melber's astoundingly good interviews. Check this out. If for nothing else, I probably should have just pulled the CNN clip. It's a fantastic interview. Here we go.
And it doesn't really go any better.
These tapes would indicate that former President Trump knew that the documents that he had were classified.
Fair, it's all a witch hunt to justify indicting Trump. Here's one more clip. Here's Abby Phillip interviewing the same guy, Jim Trusty, and it doesn't really go any better.
These tapes,
Abby Phillip, just had to give her the credit,
would indicate that former President Trump knew that the documents that he had were classified.
Yes.
Does that not make his statements about blanket declassification and some statements by his representatives, wouldn't that make those lies?
Yeah, I'm not going to dignify the DOJ leak. What I will tell you is this. When you are...
Because it's extremely inconvenient to my client.
It does sound like you just don't want to address the substance.
Yeah, I shouldn't have interrupted her.
Because it's extremely inconvenient to my client.
It does sound like you just don't want to address the substance.
Well, it'd also be nice if...
It just sounds like you don't want to address the substance. Thank you. Thank you. That's exactly correct. Here's a question for you. Why is this guy even bothering to go in front of a camera if he can't talk directly with you? It's the same issue as Kevin McCarthy. If you are the sort of person that has fallen for this, if you are the sort of person that is on Trump's side regarding the classified document theft, you need to answer that question. If you are the sort of person that comes across these people, you need to demand they answer that question. Why can this guy not just give a straight answer? Oh, I'm not going to address this leak. You want to talk about leaking in government offices? Fine, we can do that. You should first and foremost be concerned with whether or not something is true. That's crazy, I know. But a good place to start with our top priority is it true? And we can have a conversation. Why all these leaks? Why were there so many people around Trump that felt that America needed to know what he was up to? That is a question we should ask. I don't think you're going to like the answers. I think the answers are going to be because people were terrified that the Department of Justice wasn't doing anything, that Trump was still a free man, that this guy was actively causing harm in our country after trying a coup and not getting punished for it for years. Years and years. We're going to have that conversation. First and foremost, we should really just sort of deal with, did this guy steal some documents? How about that? Here's the interview.
You let me answer. So let me just try to answer, because
He's not actually trying to answer. That's the thing.
I am trying to be responsive, but I'm not going to bite on a leak campaign and try the case in the media. What I will tell you is there is no doubt that as commander-in-chief, and when the president left Washington, D.C. for Mar-a-Lago, he was actually still president. When he left for Mar-a-Lago with boxes of documents that other people packed for him that he brought.
At least now he's admitting there were boxes, huh?
He was the commander-in-chief. There is no doubt that he has the constitutional authority as commander-in-chief to declassify. It does not have to go through some sort of bureaucratic process to.
Does he have the authority to declassify is different than does he have the authority to declassify remotely? Does he have the authority to remove those documents before they're declassified? Does he have the authority to declassify without telling anyone? The president does not have a God King's rights. There are limitations. There are procedures that must be followed. Those procedures are there because he's a government employee. He can be replaced. In this case, he was replaced. And we do not want to have our national security dependent on the whims of a recently fired employee. Why is this guy going on TV, doing an interview after this information became available to the public, and then refusing to address the information? Well, gosh, maybe just. It's because the information is damning, and he wants to go on there so he can say that he was defending Trump, that they had an argument to make about it. Just to go up there and make sound and scowl, flap his jowls at this young lady, so that people who aren't really paying attention can assume there's a two sides story going on. But he's not willing to address the questions. He's not willing to speak frankly. And those people who have voted Republican their whole lives and understood nothing about the politics they were supporting, we got to wake them up. And the way to do that is to ask the question, why isn't this guy given a straight answer? Why is he unable to? The answer to that question is obvious, by the way. It's because Trump is in the wrong. Legally or morally, it always ends up the same. Trump is in the wrong. McCarthy is in the wrong. These people do not have the interests of America in mind. These people are self-interested criminals, as in they break the law, and they do it for their own gain.
Be declassified.
But wouldn't it be very easy to simply prove that he just declassified them? Because even though he doesn't have to go through a process,
right,
he does have to decide that it's been done. Did he tell anyone?
Yes.
And can you prove it?
Sure, but we're not going to try.
Did he declassify this document that we're referring to?
We're not going to try that.
All right. So as you can see, this is a very poor appearance for Jim Trust.
almost at the end there. Oh, almost. He starts saying, sure, but. Sure, he can prove it, but I'm not going to do it now. Oh, always later. Always somewhere down the line. What are we going to find out? We're going to find out almost certainly that Trump had no ability to declassify these once he got on the plane. That he did not declassify these because he knew he didn't have that ability. He was just trying to take them. For whatever reason, he believed he could get away with it. And then we are going to find out that he instructed his lawyers to lie. What I am asking Republicans to believe doesn't require a massive, complicated series of made-up laws to be memorized. I'm asking Republicans to believe the truth. You want to make starting with the United States, but if you want to make the world a better place, just demand straight answers. And if people follow the sorts of folks who cannot give straight answers, you need to make it clear to them. The followers, you need to make it clear to them that they are being toyed with. Let's see what y'all have to say. Ha! Franny P. He's going to prove it in just 2 more weeks. Yeah. He's going to prove it in the same way he's going to come up with a replacement for Obamacare, right? Jess Rush, I'm telling you, Foxy, they think they're going to be rich by association. Yeah, for sure. Domenico, well, yes, that again is reiterating 75 million in the wrong. Oh, let's go back up. Yeah, Mars Falcon, Patrick Thibodeau, or Mars Falcon talking to Patrick Thibodeau. I went to, look, folks, dyslexia is, it's a rough thing. Dawned on me, said, why are these cult followers so ignorant? It's all in the face of what's happened and Trump's criminality and yet, ... Yeah. The ignorance that I have seen, I truly can't speak for all, but the ignorance I have seen has been willful. It's not been it hadn't been a mistake. So we need to now address that. We can't allow these folks to bury their heads in the sand anymore. You need to take those kinds of clips that I just played for you and talk to Republican voters about it. How can you possibly support people like this? Take the McCarthy clip. Ask them, why does he need to pretend like this is something other than what it is? Why does he make it seem as though he's providing jobs when what he is doing is punishing people who they're already suffering? I gave you the worst case scenario for that person. The reality is not even that. The reality is these people have problems that for one reason or another means they can't get a job. It's already not enough to build a life off of that we provide. So nobody wants to be in the position where they need this help. So why does Kevin McCarthy lie about what he's doing? Ask them these questions, please. This is the calmer, this is the more civilized version of dealing with this. We are fast approaching the time where there will be no way that we can continue on with our daily lives while Trump is a free person. We're going to have to address the fact that it's 2020 freaking 3, halfway through it as of today. And Trump is still free. 2 years after an attempted coup, while openly mocking the government, while engaging in stochastic terrorism, trying to get other Americans killed. We're fast approaching the time where we cannot simply allow him to be out and about anymore. I think the Department of Justice knows that. I think the hammer is going to fall real soon. And when we get there, we need the 70 million duped Americans to understand what they are hearing, to have more media literacy than they do, to have more reality literacy than they do. We need to teach them what con men look like and sound like. Let's get to work doing that. Y'all, it was fun. This was a short stream today, but I'll tell you what, I enjoy it every time, no matter how long. I will see y'all on the next one, which I believe shall be tomorrow. This has been WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. My name's Jake. Bonus. Jess Rush, I got to answer your question. Do you think there will be a lookie at Jared Kushner and the $2 billion? No, unless we insist there is.